Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Pulp Crazy. I'm your host, Jason Aiken. This week's episode continues the supernatural theme of episodes for October. The story this week is Dig Me No Grave by Robert E. Howard. It first appeared in the February 1937 issue of Weird Tales. Now, this story was published posthumously, as Howard passed away on June 11th, 1936. This is one of Howard's tales set in the Cthulhu Mythos of H.P. Lovecraft. Dig Me No Grave stars Conrad and Kirowan. I really don't know too much about Conrad and Kirowan, besides that they're occult detectives, supernatural investigators, and world travelers. Howard wrote 6 stories featuring them, and I believe I've only read 2 or 3 of them. He also wrote an unfinished fragment that was finished by the late C.J. Henderson, titled Dagon Manor. But like I said, I really don't know too much about them. But it's my understanding that Howard really got into Kirowan's backstory in a short story titled Honor of the Ring, which ties into Conan the Barbarian and the Hyborian Age. These two are kind of the unsung heroes of REH's characters, although they did recently appear in 2 issues of Dark Horse's Robert E. Howard's Savage Sword anthology. So they might start to get in the limelight here sooner or later. I read that particular story in the Savage Sword comic, and it looks like both of these guys, their first name is John. Which is kind of funny because in this particular story, Dig Me No Grave, there's another John in the story, John Gremlin. Dig Me No Grave takes place on March 10th, 1930. We get the exact date due to the death of John Gremlin. John Gremlin dies in the presence of Conrad, and Conrad is obliged to fulfill a promise to the man. Conrad must conduct a ritual over Gremlin's body, and no grave should be dug for Gremlin. Conrad does not want to do it by himself, so he seeks out his friend, John Kirowan, to assist him. It turns out John Gremlin was into some dark stuff, and he's been at it for quite a while. Inside Gremlin's house, Conrad and Kirowan are joined by a mysterious man from the Orient who wishes to partake in the ritual as well. Now, I mentioned that this was part of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu Mythos. Some of the mythos deities and places mentioned include Yog-Sothoth, Cthulhu, and the Sunken Cities. I believe this is just an alternate spelling of Cthulhu. There's also mention of the black cyclopean walls of Koth. I'm not 100% sure what Koth is in the Cthulhu Mythos. I recognize the name as a country from Howard's Hyborian Age, but that's as far as I go. And the story also mentions noxious winds that blow from Yugoth. There's also a reference made to Toad's Heath Manor in Suffolk. I think this could be a small wink towards Clark Ashton Smith's toad god, Tsathoggua, but I'm not 100% sure on that. A deity I was unfamiliar with until I started reading this story is called Malik Tos. He is the devil and he's worshipped by the mysterious Yazidis in Asia. One symbol that he is associated with is the peacock. I really enjoyed Digging No Grave. The story isn't very long, but the way Howard writes can't be overemphasized. He's such a talented writer, and it shows even in a short story like this. During the course of the story, you don't learn much about Conrad and Kirowan, but I think that you get to know them just enough to where you kind of like these guys, and you want to read their further adventures. I read this in the Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard from Del Rey, but it looks like the story might be in the public domain in some countries. I'll be sure to link to the e-text of the story, as well as an episode of the SFF Audio podcast that includes an audio reading of the story in the show notes. I'll also put in a link to a short Marvel comic adaptation by Roy Thomas, Gil Kane, and Tom Palmer. So check that out if you're into classic Marvel comics. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Pulp Crazy is located at pulpcrazy.com. I'm at Pulp Crazy on Twitter and facebook.com/pulpcrazy. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/pulpcast. You can also email me at pulpcrazy@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.